like most people, when you hear the word geography, you shudder back to your high school days where you were worried about all the different names and places that you had to memorize. Not good memories. And then when I talk about Bible geography, all those bad memories come back. And that's certainly understandable. When you look at a map containing this Bible atlas, it is certainly overwhelming to see the amount of data and information that you're being exposed to. Well, I want to give you a couple of tips and kind of give you a Cliff Notes version of at least some of the elements of a biblical map to help you understand and kind of put some things into context as you begin to read the Bible. Over here at our map that I've drawn for you is sort of a simplified version of a political map of the ancient Near East, particularly where Israel and Judah resided. Now you may recall that Israel and Judah occurred when the kingdom divided after Solomon's death. That's when the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom broke away from the 2 tribes of the southern kingdom and became 2 different countries. So it can be confusing for people because when we use the term Israel, we normally refer to the entire region. After Solomon's death, Israel refers really to the northern kingdoms. But I want you to take a quick look over this map and just notice something about how God placed Israel smack dab in the middle of all of her enemies. Because God wanted Israel to be a light to the Gentiles. And if you recall your larger geography, you'll remember that Israel is located between 3 different continents: Europe, Asia, and Africa. I have Africa symbolized down here with Egypt with an arrow off to the southwest. And then we have, of course, Asia symbolized by Syria, Babylon, and Persia. And of course, Europe is off to the northwest. But notice where Israel is in, even on a more local scale, where these smaller kingdoms, we have Edom to the southeast, Philistines to the southwest, Moab, Ammon out here in the desert region, Gilead, where King Saul went and rescued Ramoth Gilead. We have Syria up in modern day Syria, which is holds the same name up in Damascus, Phoenicia, where Jesus met the Syro-Phoenician woman, and then of course the northern kingdom here in the southern kingdom. So when you see the geography on the political scale, you can remember why David had to fight the Edomites, why he had to fight the Moabites, and why he was fighting with the Philistines so much, because they're all there close together. One thing that's not listed here in the map, that's called the International Highway. The International Highway looked like this, and this was literally the road that armies and traders would march on. Think of it as the I-80 of the ancient Near East. It also helps us explain why the northern kingdom fell in 722 BC, and the southern kingdom fell much later in 586-87 BC. Notice how much more exposed Israel was to the influences, many of them pagan, from those who were traveling along the International Highway. I believe that there's a metaphor here for the Christian life, and that is God wants us to protect our heart, because you may know that Jerusalem was right here in Judah. God wants our heart to remain close to Him. But God also wants our hands and our outreach closer to that international highway so that we can reach out to them and give them the gospel of Jesus Christ and shine our light to the world. Continuing our theme about simplifying what you need to know about the geography of Israel so it becomes a little less scary and overwhelming, I wanted to just sort of point out a few cities that if you can sort of memorize these and pin your hat to them, you'll find your reading of the Old Testament in particular will be far more enriched as you begin to develop a mental image of what's going on in the story. I like to begin with the most northern and then to the most southern city that's commonly mentioned in the Bible. It's called From Dan to Beersheba. Now Dan is up here, way up north, and then Beersheba down here to the south. And what you may not know is that's approximately 150 miles. And the distance between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River is approximately 50 miles. So Israel is about 3 times as tall as it is wide. So it's really a small piece of land in the world. It's about the size of modern day Vermont, or sometimes people say New Jersey. But the phrase Dan to Beersheba is commonly used in the Old Testament to just talk about the entire land of Israel. The rest of the cities you'll be probably familiar with if you've read anything in the Old Testament. We have Hatzor, we have Megiddo, Samaria, the final capital of the northern kingdom, Shechem, which was a cultic site where Joshua brought the people of Israel to do their antiphonal chant as they were reestablishing the covenant of Moses. Bethel was one of the northern kingdom's temple areas that became very excoriated by the prophets. Of course, Jericho of Joshua fame, and then of course Jerusalem. Hebron was where Abraham and his wife were ultimately buried. Just a kind of a little historical note, with Joshua attacking here at Jericho, he then went south to Lachish, conquered the city of Lachish, and then moved north all the way to Hatzor. So you can see how sometimes the biblical narrative really shrinks things down that took a lot longer than what the Bible makes you think. So he had to do some moving of his troops to conquer all these various cities. I hope as you begin to memorize these particular locations, it gives you that sort of skeleton framework to help you understand and read with more enrichment and with a mental vision of what's happening within the Bible, so that when you need to go to a Bible atlas, it'll actually make a little bit more sense for you.